Hey guys, welcome to another ProGuides Teamfight Tactics video. Today, we're going over our champion tier list 9.22. This is a tier list made by our challenger and grandmaster analysts. We have some champions who shape the meta with their powerful synergies and abilities, while some other champions don't offer much at all. But first, I'd like to remind you to click on the link below and take a look at the updated ProGuides.com if you want to learn more about Teamfight Tactics. ProGuides will always have info on the newest patches, best builds, and strategies. There are all kinds of different resources from top players to help you become the best player that you can be. So be sure to check out ProGuides.com using that link in the description. Alright, let's get right back into the video. S tier champions. For our S tier, we have Rek'Sai, Jax, Malzahar, Kha'Zix, Annie, Malphite, Nami, Zyra, Olaf, Kindred, Brand, Sion, and Diana. Starting with Rek'Sai, she's a powerful steel predator, having a single target ultimate that deals an insane amount of true damage. She's one of the best early and mid-game units, maybe not 1v9ing, but she's definitely capable of tanking a lot with steel, and dealing a lot of damage with Predator. Next, we have Jax. He is a light berserker, both being decent synergies. We rate him insanely high, however, for his ultimate. Jax isn't a hyper carry, but he is extremely strong at stalling and providing crowd control for a 2-cost. He also synergizes well with Iceborne Gauntlet to provide an AoE attack speed debuff as well. Moving on, Malzahar is a reign of terror, with his synergies being Shadow Summoner. His ultimate swarms the map with Voidlings that can deal an insane amount of damage with Shadow, while also being relatively tanky. He has a large mana pool, but can make up for it with Ocean and items. For a 2-cost, his synergies are strong and he does an incredible amount of damage. He's returned from set 1 stronger and more expensive. We have Kha'Zix. He's a desert assassin, both synergizing well with him. Desert reduces armor to help him deal with tanks, and Assassins amplifies his crit damage. Kha'Zix having a small mana pool and an ultimate that refunds mana makes him ridiculous, especially when his ultimate is a stealth dash that lets him crit the lowest health unit. He's insanely strong at catching units out and constantly deals a lot of damage. Now, let's have some fun. Annie arrives in Teamfight Tactics with her ultimate Tibbers. She's an infernal summoner, and with 3 summoners, her Tibbers becomes insanely hard to kill while it deals a lot of damage. It's insane how much health Tibbers has and how much damage it can soak up. Continuing on this list, we have Malphite, who is rock solid. His synergies are a bit weak, Warden sometimes being underwhelming, and Mountain scaling poorly into the late game. However, Malphite's crowd control alone makes him an insane unit. He has high stats as well, not really requiring Warden to be tanky. Time to catch some waves, even though it's nearly winter. Nami surfs into Teamfight Tactics with her ultimate, providing a ton of crowd control, damage, and bonus on hit damage for all allies hit by the wave. She provides Ocean and Mystic, both being powerful synergies in the late game, and can be easily slotted into most teams. Her utility, damage, and overall strength put her as an S tier. Moving on, Zyra is here being an infernal summoner similar to Annie. She summons plants that, while they might not tank, deal a hefty amount of damage. Zyra is not as strong in comparison to Malzahar or Annie, but her strength and synergies as a 1-cost get her spot in S tier, being one of the best 1-costs in the game. Next on our tier list, we have Bromacia! Olaf takes his battling rage into the arena, his ultimate making him immune to crowd control and granting him attack speed and lifesteal. He provides Glacial Berserker, synergizing hand in hand, allowing him to cleave stun. With a Rage Blade and Bloodthirster, Olaf becomes a powerful killing machine. Kindred returns, but a bit differently. She's a Shadow Infernal Ranger, all being strong synergies. Her ability makes her leap, dealing magic damage to a unit while also applying grievous wounds. She's a powerful carry with her high mobility, small mana pool, and aggressive synergies. Is it getting hot in here? No, it's just Brand. He also makes his way from set 1, keeping his ultimate but coming back as an Infernal Mage. Brand is powerful, not really needing Infernal or Mage to deal damage, but imagine if you did provide Infernal or Mage. He deals an insane amount of damage and excels at long team fights, easily out-damaging many carries, as long as the enemy team has units to bounce off of. With his angry slams, Sion is a Shadow Berserker. He's not too great with Berserker, but his ultimate in combination with Shadow can deal an insane amount of damage and crowd control. Overall, his stats, ultimate, and synergies are all quite strong, making him a powerhouse in the mid and late game. Finally, we have another Infernal unit. They are on fire. Diana is here as an Infernal Assassin. While she doesn't scale that well into the mid or late game, she's one of the stronger early game units, just being generally good on her own. Her shield and AoE damage allows her to carry a lot of early fights, being another one of the better early game units in the game. A-tier champions. A-tier time. In this list, we have Renekton, Ivern, Neeko, Sivir, Aatrox, Yorick, Lux, Kog'Maw, Nocturne, Dr. Mundo, Twitch, Zed, Master Yi, Kiana, Janna, Yasuo, and Singed. To start off this list, we have Renekton. He is a strong one-cost, providing Desert and Berserker, fitting him perfectly into late-game compositions even as he falls off. In the early game, if he's positioned properly with Berserker, he can easily carry fights with his healing and damage. Next up, when a tree hits you, listen! Do you hear that? It's Ivern. He's a druid woodland with an ability that shields your lowest health ally. While he's not great at damaging, he provides a lot of survivability in the early game, keeping your main carries alive, especially when his base shield numbers are pretty high. Nico is another druid woodland. Nico has an ultimate that hits 3 times, expanding with each hit. Nico provides a lot of damage early on, especially towards teams that clump up together. It's a bit too many Nikos for one paragraph. She scales somewhat decently into the mid-game as well in comparison to Ivern or Maokai. Sivir is here. She's a Desert Blademaster, both synergizing insanely well with her. She has her ultimate, Ricochet, that makes her autos bounce to different targets, applying on hit with every bounce. Sivir can be insane, especially with Swordbreaker or Hush to be purely utility-based, capable of shutting down teams entirely. However, she remains extremely weak against assassins and summoners, making her only an A tier. Yes, we're doing this joke again. A stands for Aatrox. He's a light blade master with his ultimate being a strong burst tool against units like Taric or Scion. He's pretty decent overall and doesn't do anything too amazing. Yorick and his goons get a spot on our A tier. He is a light summoner. His summons are strong, dealing decent damage and being relatively tanky. In general, he might get outshined by Annie, but he excels in 6 light teams, with each of his summons counting as a light unit. This provides an insane amount of attack speed and healing for your team. Lux is an interesting addition to the game, having a similar chance and pool to 5 costs, but costing 7 instead. While she's a decent unit, her element synergy is inconsistent, making it hard to depend on her for your team. Her ultimate is also somewhat average, being pretty weak if she doesn't get any kills with it. She also comes with Avatar, making her count for 2 elemental synergies, so if she's Glacial Avatar, she counts as 2 glacial units. Now, onto everyone's favorite Void Puppy. Kog'Maw is a poison predator, being a decently strong early game carry, taking items that can later go on Twitch, Olaf, or anything really. He can also take AP carry items like Luden's Echo that can go on Kindred. If possible, you can also make him 3-star to serve as a late game carry. Moving on, Nocturne is a Steel Assassin. This synergizes extremely well with Rek'Sai in the mid game, making them a whole lot harder to kill, which is important since they are great carries. Nocturne's ability is a cleave that applies on hit and heals him a percentage of the damage dealt with it. He can be a decent carry with a lot of attack speed. Dr. Mundo goes where he pleases. That's the A tier on our list apparently. Dr. Mundo is a poison berserker. His ultimate is pretty strong in the mid game, and with tank items he can be incredibly hard to kill. However, he starts to fall off in the late game as he gets bursted way too quickly or grievous wounds become more common. Twitch was hiding. He is a powerful late game carry with his synergies being poison rangers. This synergizes well with his ultimate that grants him infinite range, bonus attack damage, and piercing bullets that apply on hit. If you run 3 poison, he provides a ton of utility as well. Next, we have an electric summoner assassin, Zed. He has the insane high roll of combining items to make a clone army of death. He also just serves as a great summoner or the final piece for 3 electric. He's a decent unit overall, and while he needs to be stacked to be effective, he can definitely solo carry your games if built properly. Master Yi is a Shadow Blademaster Mystic, being particularly strong together. Even if he's not your hyper carry, he can be great at providing synergies, though he's mostly known with Shadow Blademaster to be a 1v9 carry. While his damage output is crazy, he faces the biggest problem of just being generally too squishy. He's prone to burst and can easily just instantly die at any time, except when he's meditating. Qiyana is a decent assassin, her stun being incredibly strong. Her element depends on the map, so she can be strong in some comps and bad in others. She's particularly good with 2 Mountain with Taliyah early on. Yasuo makes his return, being a 2 cost now and getting his ultimate, which makes him knock up a unit with the most items and strike them multiple times. He's a Wind Blademaster and quite decent overall, being a strong early carry. Janna is a Wind Mystic, getting her ultimate, which knocks back all nearby enemies and heals allies for its duration. It's a good heal and decent crowd control, but gets heavily countered by grievous wounds, and she can easily be bursted down before she even ults. However, most of the time, she'll get a pretty strong ult off, easily changing the course of the fights. And finally, we have Singed, the most toxic champion. He is a poison alchemist, with his ultimate being his poison gas. He runs around the map poisoning the enemy team, immune to collision, so he just keeps running. He's very strong at applying grievous wounds with Morrocrux and Poison's mana effect. B tier champions. These are units that are just moderate, not really providing anything special, but just being good overall. In this list, we have Warwick, Vladimir, Nasus, Volibear, Varus, Nautilus, LeBlanc, Veigar, Azir, Braum, Maokai, Soraka, and Syndra. Let's start off with Warwick, who is now a Glacial Predator. He's somewhat decent with better stats and his ult being more effective, though his synergies are kind of weird with him, not really offering much. Vladimir is an Ocean Mage, being somewhat strong in the early game but falls off incredibly hard in the mid and late game. He's mostly used around that time to provide Ocean or 6 mages. We have Nasus as a Light Warden, getting his ultimate, which gives him bonus health and deals damage to enemies over time. He's not really too special, being a moderate tank and synergizing decently with Morrocrux. Now we have Volibear as a Glacial Electric Berserker. Munch! He gets his Bite for an ability, dealing damage to an enemy unit. He's just decent overall, providing good synergies, however, he doesn't do much on his own. Varus returns as well, this time as an Infernal Ranger. His ultimate is somewhat okay, but weaker than it was before from set 1. He does an alright amount of damage and has good synergies, leaving him at B tier. Nautilus is an Ocean Warden, getting his ultimate which focuses an enemy and knocks them up. Ocean Man, take me by the Nautilus ultimate and please hit their carry. His ability is kind of underwhelming, but his overall stats and synergies are strong, being a great mid and late game tank. LeBlanc is a Woodland Assassin Mage. Her ultimate is somewhat okay, being weird in combination with Mage. She also doesn't synergize that well with Assassin either, only being useful to let her stun the back line. She can be a great filler unit to hit 3 of any of her synergies, but falls off later into the game. He's small, but he packs a punch. Don't call him short though. Veigar is a Shadow Mage, receiving the same ultimate that executes a unit if they're a lower star than him. Hitting 3-star Veigar can be difficult, but can be extremely powerful. He's mostly used as a decent unit to provide shadows or 6 mages. Azir is here! Hey, that rhymes. He's a Desert Summoner, Desert being awkward since he's a magic damage-oriented carry. He does moderate damage, but can be awkward when enemies are spread out, since his summoned soldiers can only hit enemies close to them. Due to his inconsistency and awkward synergy, he's only a B tier. Stand behind Braum! Braum is a decent mid-game warden, providing a shield that can absorb a ton of damage. He's strong as a tank, but doesn't provide crowd control or damage at all. Maokai is another friendly neighborhood tree, being a woodland druid. He's a tank that heals himself whenever he takes magic damage. His stats and healing are kind of average, so we put him as a B tier. Soraka is not a healer, but a silencer. She is a light mystic. Soraka places down an AoE silence that also enables mana gain. While she does decent damage and provides good utility, her ultimate being a small radius and also can have enemies walking out of it makes it kind of weak. It's also inconsistent to get her at 3-star. Finally, we have Syndra. Her ultimate packs a punch, dealing a burst of small AoE damage. She scales decently in the early and mid game, having some good damage potential in the late game. C tier champions. From what we see, it's time for C. On this list, we have Ornn, Thresh, Skarner, Ezreal, and Taliyah. For our first unit, we have Ornn, an Electric Warden. His synergies are quite awkward, especially since Theory Electric can only be obtained until you find Lux or Zed. He does weak damage and has pretty average stats. Ornn is quite underwhelming overall. Thresh is another Warden that we believe to be quite weak. He's an Ocean Warden. While Thresh's stats aren't too bad, his ultimate can be very hit or miss, and he gets outshined by a lot of units in the mid and late game. Protect the Spires! Skarner is a Crystal Predator, being extremely underwhelming overall. His ability's shield is quite small unless he's 3-starred, and he only gets attack speed when the shield is active. Crystal is also not too great of a synergy as well, leaving Skarner as a C tier. Moving up, quest accepted. What a shame, since Ezreal is a C tier. He is a Glacial Ranger and just gets outshined by Kindred overall. Kindred does slightly less damage but takes less mana, applies grievous wounds, and has better synergies. Ezreal only really provides 2 Glacials if you're running an Olaf, but otherwise is quite underwhelming for a 3 cost. Taliyah, while being a mountain mage, is quite weak overall. Her damage is kinda bad and her stats are awful. Only time she's decent is when you're running her for 6 mages or when you have Qiyana on the mountain map to get an early 2 mountain. D tier champions. We reached the end of our list, the D tiers. In this list, we have Vayne, Taric, and Ashe. These units are quite underwhelming overall and usually weak under most conditions. Vayne returns from set 1, being really underwhelming as a light ranger. She only exists to provide synergies, but as a unit, she's quite bad. Outrageous! Taric is a D tier, despite being a 5 cost. Crystal Warden aren't necessarily the best synergies, and his ultimate is too slow most of the time, usually leading him to die before it even casts. Though his ultimate is most certainly powerful, it is usually a miss. He doesn't fit into most compositions as well. And finally, we have Ashe, a Crystal Ranger. Though she was once strong in PvE, she's fallen out of favor after major nerfs to her ultimate, making her simply not worth it as a 4 cost. Her damage is low, her ability is weak in comparison to Kindred or Twitch, and Crystals aren't really that great at the moment. Alright, that's it for today's champion tier list. Who's your favorite champion in set 2? Comment down below, like and subscribe, and we hope to see you in the next video.